Hello, thank you for joining with me. We are in A Course in Miracles workbook for students, part 2 of the workbook, section 6. What is the Holy Spirit? Lesson 284. I can elect to change all thoughts that hurt. Loss is not loss when properly perceived. Pain is impossible. There is no grief with any cause at all. And suffering of any kind is nothing but a dream. Such is the truth, at first to be but said, and then repeated many times, and next to be accepted as but partially true, with many reservations, then to be considered seriously more and more, and finally accepted as the truth. I can elect to change all thoughts that hurt. And I would pass beyond the words today, go past all reservations, and arrive at full acceptance of the truth in them. Footnote 95. This final sentence signifies my intention to go through all 5 stages today, to say these words, repeat them many times, accept them as but partially true, seriously consider them more and more, and finally accept them as the truth. Father, what you have given cannot hurt, so grief and pain must be impossible. Footnote 96. This logical argument contains an unstated premise that is needed to make the logic work. The full argument goes like this. God gives everything that is real, unstated premise. What God has given cannot hurt. Therefore, grief and pain must be impossible. Let me not fail in trust in you today, accepting but the joyous as your gifts, accepting but the joyous as the truth. And now we will go to Alan Watson and Robert Perry's commentary. Practice suggestion by Robert Perry. When you repeat today's lesson, you may want to make it more specific. I can elect to change this thought about, and fill in the blank. Commentary. This is one of the very good capsule statements of the practical teaching of the Course. What is seen as outside must be seen first as originating inside in my thoughts. Then this lesson applies. If the origin of the problem is my thoughts, I can affect the problem. I can change all thoughts that hurt. Nothing outside me can affect me. The cause of my problems, and therefore the solution to them, is entirely within my mind and entirely within my control. Loss is not loss when properly perceived. Wham, zap, that really hits a lot of buttons. Perhaps recently there was something I wanted to do or someplace I wanted to go and I could not do it. I could perceive that as loss and be upset. Yet, properly perceive that loss can be seen as not a loss at all. The perception of an event, any event, as a loss is purely within my mind. The hurt comes not from the external event, but from my thoughts about it, and I can elect to change all thoughts that hurt. But we have a mental scale of lesser and greater losses. As we go up our scale, this gets harder and harder to accept. Not getting to a meeting or a concert is one thing, but a few years ago I lost my computer hard disk totally. I lost several years of personal journals and a mailing list with hundreds of names on it. No backups, no way to retrieve them, gone. It took me a long time to work through not seeing that as a loss, So it took a long time to work through to not seeing that as a loss. But the principle is the same. The perception of loss was purely in my mind, and all perception of loss and pain is always there and nowhere else. It is always possible for me to change those thoughts if I really want to. Up the scale still further, What about when someone we love dies, especially unexpectedly, tragically, from sickness or violence or accident? How is it possible to apply loss is not loss when properly perceived to such an event? It is evident the lesson means for us to do just that because it continues. Pain is impossible. There is no grief with any cause at all, and suffering of any kind is nothing but a dream. The lesson is saying that, properly perceived, even death is not a cause for grief. All of it is just a more extreme form of the same case. The cause for our hurt, our pain, and our grief is not external to us. It is in the way we are thinking about things, and we can change the way we think about them and eliminate the pain. The major issue of life is not in the externals, it is in our thinking. You would not go up to someone who had just lost a loved one and say bluntly, there is no cause for grief here. It very likely would be perceived as cruel and cold, as if you were saying, he's no loss, look at the bright side, now you won't have to put up with his and her faults anymore. And you can find another who will make you really happy. People who try to tell the grieving person there is no cause for grief are often choosing to be spiritually correct at the expense of kindness. Let's always put kindness first. That is spiritual. I think, however, that the lesson is asking us to say something like that there is no cause for grief to ourselves, even in cases of what seems like an extreme loss. It is suggesting in the lines that follow a process we can follow to change our thoughts, even in such seemingly impossible cases. See the essay after this commentary for more on this process, and you could probably look that up online. I'm not going to read the essay. It is not an instant process, and it may take considerable time to turn the tide of our thoughts, but it is possible. It is within our power to change all thoughts that hurt. Our aim should be eventually to see that grief and pain must be impossible. Why? Because our Father would not give us anything that hurts us, and there is no other source. He gives only the joyous, so only the joyous is the truth. And I can certainly relate to this, dealing with deaths and untimely deaths and so forth. And I'm sure we all can, honestly. And if you'll please close your eyes, I will lead you in meditation. I can elect to change all thoughts that hurt. Father, what you have given cannot hurt, so grief and pain must be impossible. Let me not fail in trust in you today, accepting but the joyous as your gifts, accepting but the joyous as the truth. much for joining with me in this meditation, and we will now read What is the Holy Spirit? We are reading paragraph 2, sentences 3 and 4. For learning as the Holy Spirit guides it to the For learning as the Holy Spirit guides it to the outcome he perceives for it, becomes the means to go beyond itself, to be replaced by the eternal truth. I'm sorry, that was 3 and 4, paragraph 2. Paragraph 2, 3 and 4, I don't see a 4. Unless I'm totally missing it. Alright, well, I'm going to stop there. The process of translating our perceptions being discussed here is exactly the same process of changing our thoughts described in Lesson 284. I can elect to change all thoughts that hurt. Sights and sounds must be translated from the witnesses of fear to those of love. This process of changing thoughts that hurt is all that learning is for, and when it has been accomplished, the game is over. This is the goal, the end of all spiritual process. Lesson 193 put it well. How can you tell when you are seeing wrong or someone else is failing to perceive the lesson he should learn? Does pain seem real in the perception? If it does, be sure the lesson is not learned. A perception of pain is an unforgiveness. It indicates a need for a shift in perception. It is not sinful or bad to feel pain or grief. It is simply a mistaken perception. I'm seeing if I missed my reading. This is paragraph 2, sentences 3 to 4. Okay. This is what life is all about. I'm not sure where I left off. This is what the Holy Spirit is for, to help us through this process of translating our thoughts and changing our perceptions. This is what life is all about. This is the only lesson in the classroom. We do it through frequent repetition of the truth and through persistently bringing our perceptions of pain to Him for healing. The complete absence of such perception comes only at the end of the entire process. The manual puts it well. It is your function to escape from them, perceptions of pain, for example, but not to be without them. It is our own personal experience with pain and grief and our experience of escape from them that enables us to be of help to others who are caught in their grasp. Learning from the Holy Spirit then involves openly acknowledging our false perceptions and not being guilty about them, but simply bringing them to Him for healing. This kind of learning becomes the means to go beyond itself, to be replaced by the eternal truth. If we gripe and complain about the learning process, we will only delay the desired outcome. We are not expected to be without experiences of pain and grief, nor should we expect to be without them. But we should engage ourselves in the work of escaping from them when they occur, bringing them to the gentle kindness of the Holy Spirit's presence, asking Him to translate our perceptions so that what we see as witnesses to fear become instead witnesses to love. Please read this section, What is the Holy Spirit, in its entirety today. And thank you for joining me with me in this lesson 284. I can elect to change all thoughts that hurt. I love you.